All right, we're just waiting for Sean Ackley, Brendan O'Leary to join us here. We're going to be talking about the California fires and I'm sure a lot of other topics. What a year. What a crazy year. It's not even over yet. I am so ready for this year to be over. It's just been very draining. Just a lot of things happening in this year, so I'm ready for it to be done. Move on to next year. Got fires in Northern California again. Fires in Southern California again. I think some of it looks like arson. I don't know how anyone could think that that this is natural or anything. But hey, who do we have here?
Brendan, what's up?
What's up, man?
How you doing?
Good. I was just talking to myself, or I was talking to myself about these fires and just wondering if it's arson. I know people have talked about what are those weapons called? Like laser beams or whatever. Directed energy weapons. Thank you. So, and I know Sean had made an interesting point on that. But you said that your house actually lifted up. I mean, felt like it lifted up off of the ground. Like the Wizard of Oz or something, or what?
That was an earthquake the other day. No, it was good. Yeah. It was a good one. It was centered pretty much in my town. I forget what the Richter was. It was, I think it was a 2-something.
That's
maybe
it?
3.
And it shook the house?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It came down, and I guess my house is more based on a flat cement surface than I believed it was. I heard it, and then it hit, and yeah, a lot of stuff was swaying.
I would like to blame the Bohemian Club. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to blame them yet, but I'm going to figure out some way to blame them for that. I got you covered, man. Don't worry. I'm on it. I'm on the case. Me too, and my frog-eating buddy Alex Jones. Did you see that video? I was like, yeah. I wanted to tear off my bumper stickers instantly. It was the most cringeworthy video of Alex Jones hopping around like a frog. I don't know what he was saying because I couldn't hear it. I didn't need to hear it. I just seeing it was like, has it really come to this? Is this where we are? And then I was like, you know what? It's been like this for years. If you look at Alex Jones back in the 90s, it's more like a younger, vibrant Rush Limbaugh. At least that's the view that I kind of got. And I used to watch Rush too. But now it's just like, at least in the last, 8-10 years, I don't know. It just seems like it's more about entertainment than it is about news.
I agree. Absolutely. I can't watch anymore. I can't do it. I'm like, no.
So what's the best way to peel a bumper sticker off of your car?
You put one over the top of it.
That's too easy.
Yeah.
These are like old bumper stickers. It's probably been on there since like 2010 or something, and they're just like
to
warped.
Repaint your car.
Pretty much, yeah. The good thing is I never put them on the bumper, even though they call them bumper stickers. I always put them on the windows because they come off the glass, no problem. I never understood why you put that on your bumper, knowing what it's going to do. But California.
California.
Bumper madness. Hey, Sean, you had an interesting view about those California fires.
The one where Trump was talking about how it was California's fault, or about what else did I say about the California fires?
You said that those laser beams that look like they're coming out of the sky are actually coming from the ground.
Oh yeah. That was you posted that, and I don't know where that was. That was like a housing complex or something like that, or a corporate complex. But that was definitely a magnesium flare. That was a magnesium oxide generated incendiary type event. I mean, there was nothing coming from the sky. That was glare off the camera.
Yeah, that was glare.
Do you get pleasure of just bringing down everything that I post? Is that your job?
I take pleasure in being precise with my words, and that is a complaint that I get a little bit, is that I'm kind of like, I'm like a perfectionist troll on Twitter, so I can't help myself.
Can you maybe change that or something, or are we just going to have to live with your logic for the rest of our life?
I'm not going to call laser weapons unless they really are. And DU has been used over in Iraq, but I don't think we're using laser weapons, dude. I really don't. In fact, I think the whole laser weapon program is like not working. I think that they're doing DU from space, because they're clearly using space weapons, but I don't think they're lasers. I don't think there's any evidence anywhere that there's lasers coming from the sky. The whole fucking Star Wars thing was like a total scam. So, I mean, they're like shooting satellites out of space and stuff like that. But, well, what was that movie? What was that movie where they did the space weapon back in the 80s? Remember, and they targeted the house with the
GoldenEye.
No, not GoldenEye. That was another one. But yeah, that was a good movie. But no, there was like a funny movie. Remember, it was like a funny 80s movie that had
Val Kilmer was in that.
Like Val Kilmer and a couple other people. It was hella funny, and that was like a true space weapon. But yeah, no, they're not doing that.
Which movie is this? I want to look that up.
Oh, it's old. It's mad old.
Look up Val Kilmer. Yeah, he was like the smart kid, and it's way back in the 80s. If you've got a IMDb or something up, and
is it called Real Genius?
Real Genius. There you go. That is it.
Nice.
Oh yeah, we just watched that. I had no idea what I was watching.
But I'm not sure when the whole Star Wars phenomena came out, but I know Real Genius exploited that entire storyline. Because they had a college kid develop the reflector mirror, and then the military designed the laser, but then they had to come up with a fuel source, and then the fuel source was designed by the same college but another team. So it was like really realistic. They had compartmentalization and everything, just like they would do in real life. Where one person didn't know what the other person was doing and stuff like that. And remember the geeky kid that wanted everyone to be nice to him? He was the guy who created the spinning platform that all it needed was like a geopositional satellite direction or something like that, and they had like these motherboards and like these old computers and stuff like that was powering it, and they're like, oh crap, all they need was that, and like this kid came up with it, and then from there it was, anyways, it was realistic.
But you're saying it wasn't real. That's what you're saying.
If laser weapons are real, they kept it really super secret, and like fired it only when people aren't looking, because there would be more people on the internet talking about it with video and stuff like that. So no, there's nobody that's firing a laser weapon and like holding it open for like 15 seconds or something like that. Because you'd have to remember how fast we're spinning? How fast we're spinning in space, right? So if you, and the movie was totally accurate. If you watch this movie, you look at it, you go, oh my God, this is exactly what would happen if we had laser weapons, right? Because they would pinpoint somebody on Earth, and then when they fired, they would have to like wait for a second because of the Earth's spin. So you'd always get this like firing sequence that was like, you know, more than a split second, right? And yeah, it's pretty.
It always sounded like.
But yeah, so I don't know, man. If they're testing something like that, it's probably being done in like remote parts of Antarctica. Maybe it's Antarctica. Maybe that's all the secret. Maybe they're testing stuff like that. I don't know, but I mean, I'm not a believer in laser weapons, so.
There is a Pacific Northwest training range complex which goes from northern. Well, it goes from Mendocino County, like out in the ocean, you know, generally speaking, from Mendocino County all the way up to Washington, like up to, you know, Puget Sound and all that, and out in the ocean, they've been testing depleted uranium, and they did some missile stuff, and I believe in the giant PDF that you can download about it, they give you a list of the different tests that they do, and I believe one of those is directed energy weapons. But I don't believe that the fires are in any way from directed energy weapons. I think that's fishy as hell, the way things are burning.
Well, now also keep in mind that directed energy weapons from space or directed energy weapons from like the nose tip of a plane, because they actually have specs on specially designed 747s with nose tips, because you know people always talk about 9/11 and the directed energy weapons and stuff like that, and I'm not a big believer in that because I don't see any evidence for that. However, there are nose tip weapons, so if some military aircraft hit the trade towers, which I'm not sure I'm much of a believer in that, but I'm open to that just because there was nobody that had a really good view of the plane, or the two planes. But there are energy weapons from like nose cones and stuff like that. And what they say is that once you're high enough up in the atmosphere, you can get a pretty good targeting for that. But that's not space weapons. I mean, that's a far cry from somebody delivering a high energy weapon from a space platform. But if you're talking about from an aircraft, I'm pretty good with that. I'm pretty sure they're doing that. But I don't know about hitting like a freaking target like in a car or something like that. You know, they're gonna probably use DU for that. I mean, because DU, you know, they do DU at about what, 30,000 feet. It's the same footage, the same amount of space that they have to do when they're like jumping halo jumps and stuff. Because they've got to target it, but those DUs are really heavy, so it's a lot easier to target with that. But I got a conspiracy theory for you. I don't know if you guys saw this or not. How about the fires up and down California? If you map the high-speed rail, the planned high-speed rail system, and you map it over the fires, they match up.
Nice. How accurately?
Well, so I don't have the blueprint, so I can't actually say that I'm an expert. That's why I'm saying it's a theory. It's like somebody pulled it out of their butt or something. But I mean, if you look at the diagrams that are available on the internet and you match it up with the fire pattern that's on the internet, so all of this stuff is obviously on the internet. It's, you know, nobody's like finding the actual blueprints or something. But there are public records, right? That like where the high-speed rail system has actually gone in and they've requested land and they've requested permits and all this other stuff to put the high-speed rail system all the way from Northern California continuously down to Southern California, right? So now they've only built, what, like 3 miles of it right now, but they've still requested the land. See there, I hear some echo of myself, I think, now, so that's funny. But anyways, they've requested all this land. So the conspiracy theory is, if somebody could prove this with all of the documents and permits and all this other stuff, they could just like be burning up all of the land between here and Southern California to put the high-speed rail system in. But that's been done before, right? I mean, you know.
Sure.
Think think of Louisiana and stuff like that, right?
Mm. I was thinking about 5G in 2020. It's supposed to nationally roll out, and I think we're just popping new stuff now because everything's burned the hell up.
Yeah, I would look at where those 5G towers are and compare those to where all these fire. I don't know either. I did see a couple maps that show where the fires are, where this high-speed rail is, and I think in the northern area that they were showing, it looks similar. In the southern area, it looks a little off, but I don't know. It definitely caught my eye too. It's something that I think needs to be looked into in not only the public records, but also whenever they build this high-speed rail, I think we'll be able to tell if they're building it where a lot of these fires are happening. But it seems like these are forest fires. So.
PG&E is, we were just talking about this at work today, but in my opinion, and I don't even think it's my opinion anymore. I think a lot of people are thinking this. PG&E is well outside the realm of what we would call reasonable reaction or reasonable service now. We're at that point where we're talking like there should really be some people that like shut them down now. I don't think PG&E has any business being in business anymore. And I think that PG&E has a track record going all the way back to the 70s with damaging poisons in the water, huge lawsuits, things that they wouldn't even fess up to until they were sent to court. PG&E has burned down several cities already. I mean, they burned down a San Mateo neighborhood and stuff like that. And I mean, there's people that said that was a missile, but I mean, I'm not convinced of that, but it's possible. But PG&E has like done its. I mean, there's thousands of news stories about where PG&E has all this old infrastructure, and there's, I don't know if there's thousands, but at least hundreds of stories where they've like admitted, oh yeah, well this is old infrastructure and we didn't have the whatever. They just came up with excuses about why they couldn't fix their infrastructure. And I mean, you guys know I'm not a big supporter of the government taking over everything. I mean, I'm all for free enterprise and libertarian values and stuff like that. But I quite frankly, I'm wondering, there has to be a point where I'm thinking that a public-private partnership is just simply not good enough. And if we were to, I would say privatize the whole thing, but the only way that's possible is if we privatize it in such a way where there were mandatory zoning sections or something. I mean, maybe we could work that out, but if we can't work out privatizing power, then the whole thing just needs to be taken over, I think, by the government. And I was thinking of this today, where maybe you do it where a minimum of 2 states, like 2 bordering states, are required to participate, where you don't allow one state to only do it themselves. Because right now, like PG&E, Southern Edison, and stuff like that, they all do it inside of California. So why don't we open it up? Why don't we open the market up so it's done between states? And maybe what we do is have the infrastructure is taken over by the government, and then regulations are put on it so that they're required to upgrade it. And then what you do is you have hundreds of companies come in and bid for the right to manage parts of the infrastructure. So in that way, you don't have one big company doing the whole thing. If PG&E wants to be involved, let them manage Los Angeles. I don't care if that burns down or not. But the people who are living in the state of Jefferson, which by the way is like a huge swath of California, they don't want PG&E managing their forests and stuff like that. I mean, so let somebody else manage the state of Jefferson, and have competing infrastructure companies, and then they can tax you based on the costs of the infrastructure and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm not a big supporter of government doing that, but there has to be a better way than a single company like managing the whole thing. It just has to be.
Yeah, I don't know if the government taking over that is going to be a very good thing, though. That's the problem. There's no good answer unless it's like, I guess what you're talking about, though, because when I hear government, when I hear the G word, obviously I think of the big brother and all that stuff, but local government is a whole nother issue. It's a whole nother ballgame. I think you're just talking about that.
Maybe. I mean, maybe what I'm thinking of is if it's not feasible for the government to take it over, and you're right. I mean, I barely will you hear me say that, oh, I think it's a great idea for the government to take that over. But maybe telling PG&E, you know, thank you for the service of you burning down thousands of our houses, but thanks but no thanks, and we won't be using your services anymore. And the only way you can stay in business if you break yourself up into 100 different entities and let all of those entities compete against each other for management of the infrastructure. And then, I don't know, maybe, I have no idea. I know that government taking over water and government taking over power and stuff like that is bad enough, but then when you have private companies taking over things like infrastructure, whether it's water, garbage, power, or whatever, it always turns out to be like more expensive, except for like freaking, you know, next to dams and stuff. Like if you think about Las Vegas, they like basically get paid for using their power. It's crazy. Yeah,
How is that?
They use their air conditioners. My brother told me he uses his air conditioner all the time, and I think he said the bill that he gets is like, it doesn't even charge him for the power. They charge a tax on like utilizing the power lines or something like that. It's crazy, because of the dam, right? And their power is all subsidized. But I don't know. I don't know all the answers. I think it's good for people to talk about it, and I think big news shows should be talking about what do we do now with PG&E. I am the biggest supporter of bringing in like either the California National Guard or I don't even care, the Federal National Guard, and just telling PG&E they're going to red tag all their buildings and just burn them down. And I know that sounds radical, but we've never done that with a company. It needed to happen to Monsanto, and all they did was sold their property to Bayer and got out of the entire thing, and the CEO walked away with millions and millions of dollars, if not billions. And now PG&E is at the same place. We can't allow these companies to get their executive boards compensated so royally and then just let them walk away, and then the people have to pay for it. You know, PG&E and Monsanto turned out to be these too big to fail companies. And the one thing I'm definitely against is too big to fail. Whether you're a corporation or whether you're a corporate banking entity like the Federal Reserve Bank, I'm just not into that. So too big to fail needs to actually be done with. And I'm totally in for just, I would be the most radical governor. I would send the military in and just take them out, because they're anti-California at this point. And Monsanto is they were anti-world, but I mean, we could deal with them from a federal level. But I mean, yeah, Monsanto is a completely different entity. But anyways, with California, they've screwed so many people over so long that, anyways, that's my position on it. I don't think we should play nice with these people anymore. And everyone's so politically correct all the time. oh, be nice to this, and oh, the CEO is just doing the best that he can. Bullshit. He wasn't doing the best that he can. PG&E's CEO knows exactly what's going on. I have no idea how he sleeps at night. He must be a psychopath because he can't possibly understand the feelings of regular people. And I have to say the thing about, the executives at Monsanto as well, and the executives at Bayer, and IG Farben, and all these freaking companies that just destroy the planet with all their chemicals. And PG&E's no different, right? They're like a chemical company too, because of all their off-waste from their facilities. I'm really radical when it comes to that. I don't have any bones at all about that, but some of the few things that I'm super radical with is when they start destroying our environment and they're telling us that we have to buy different SUVs because our carbon footprint is too high. I'm saying, screw that. Let's deal with the local companies first.
Does anyone think that these fires were natural, or do you guys all think that maybe there's something else going on here?
The conditions are so bad for fires here that any spark whatsoever can have the potential to burn down an entire town. It can rage fires for months, and there's really no way to reverse that at this point. I think they could drum up some ways to put fires out more effectively than they do with all the resources that they use, all the manpower. They flooded the Ho Chi Minh Trail pretty good during Vietnam. Why can't you dump a ton of water onto some of these fires? I'm not into geoengineering whatsoever, but if it's going to save lives and entire towns, go for it. I think that the fires that were around my neighborhood and a lot of other neighborhoods last October, when all those fires started the same day, Santa Rosa, Redwood Valley, Potter Valley, all this area, up where I'm at, I live in Willits. I live in Mendocino County. We were shut off for a few days from internet and phone lines. The only way that we could use the internet was to assemble as a town outside the public library. They had some pretty good internet going on for whatever reason there, and it's devastating that these things never stop. They just keep going. I think arson is very for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, we saw. There's already been a news story about something with PG&E starting this, but to go to Brandon's point is that it's arson is one thing. I mean, if you don't create a campfire properly out in the wilderness, is that considered arson? I mean, you can certainly be held responsible for it. It might be a mistake, but I think that it's all related. It's like California wildfire stuff is all related because if you're not clearing your forest properly, then it has a trickle-down effect. And I post the stuff on my Facebook and Twitter, and if people want to follow my Twitter feed, I'm RHawk301, RHAWK301. Follow my Twitter feed, and you'll get all of my public Facebook posts as well as all of my Twitter stuff as well. And I've already posted stories about this, where you go back and you look at the mismanagement of our forests. I think everyone agrees that Trump's Twitter post was like really uncalled for as far as like the timing of it, but the accuracy of the information.
Agree.
You don't think so? Okay, well then maybe we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But anyways, the information contained in the Twitter feed was very accurate. Talk about that for a second. I'll be right back.
Well, I mean, I heard Trump's or not heard it, but I read it. Obviously, read his tweet, and I guess I just interpreted it differently. I didn't feel like he was like. I mean, I felt like what he was saying needed to be said, and it's good that it comes from the highest level, because then that can only trickle down. I think if he wouldn't have said it, a lot of people like me might be like, why isn't he talking about it? It would just be one more thing that he's not talking about. Like, he's not talking about 911, not talking about JFK, not talking about chemtrails or anything like that. But so I don't know. I just felt that it was something that needed to be said, and all these. I don't think anybody should be offended by it, but you know what? That's also, you know, would I feel differently if that was my house or anything like that? I still think no. I mean, I don't. Maybe I'm just different, but I don't understand what the big issue is with what he said. And it seems like it doesn't matter what he says. It's always shock and awe. But Brendan, you want
to... No. I interpreted it, I think, the same way you did, Greg. I actually didn't have, when I saw that Twitter, I was like, oh, there's nothing wrong with this, because I understand what he's saying. I guess what I don't know if you guys know, but I follow the Scott Adams feed on Periscope and Twitter. Scott Adams actually has some really interesting discussions on persuasion, and of course he's written 2 books now on that. And I would highly recommend anybody follow the Scott Adams Periscope. It's really informational, and then he publishes everything to YouTube as well. But even Scott was like, the timing or the persuasion of the Twitter comment was not good. It was an uncalled for timing, meaning that if you're trying to persuade people to listen to what you're saying, you can't really do what he did, right? And I think that he has a few tweets, not all of them. In fact, most of them are very, very targeted for what he's trying to get out of things, meaning that the left will always misinterpret what he says. So that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is every once in a while, he'll put out a tweet that's like, hasn't been really fully vetted for the moment, right? Like literally he could have waited until the next day. Like if he waited until the next day, it probably would have been better. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not saying anything about the content, because it's absolutely rock solid on. And what I did is I retweeted Adam's post that had the president's post in there, and I put a whole bunch of links. So that's what I do, right? My thing, what I do with my Twitter feed is you'll see years of posts that I've made. Okay, so I have a history of posts dating back years from Facebook and Twitter, where you'll see nothing but informational posts and URLs and information and PDFs and stuff like that of all of the site information. And then my Facebook goes even further than that, where I actually link, you know how with like Facebook, you can have multiple comments, right? So I will go back and I will update all my Facebook posts with all the multiple links. It's kind of like I use it kind of like a blog. So, but anyways, that's all the information about those events, and it's really crazy when you look at the history on the whole forest clearing and the California, vetoing various aspects of forest prevention and stuff like that. It's not pretty, right? And they have consequences. And I think that's one of the biggest problems with the left is they only do in the here and now, and they don't think about what's happening in the future. When the future happens, they're like, oh, well, I mean, this is a problem now. So the problem has to be solved, and the way we solve that is by raising your taxes and taking more of your money and then stealing more things from you and then making more regulations and making your life more difficult and causing businesses to leave California. And that's how they deal with things. Dude, this is like a rabbit hole. Easy comparison like kids. If I raise my kids and just let them do what they want to do all the time, and like I'm talking about for 18 years, how do you think they turn out? If I just never paid any attention to them, if I never gave them rules, if I just let them do whatever they wanted to do, never and go figure, there's actually families like that, right? Go look at all the thousands and thousands of families that are ruined because of their fathers drinking, and they have a household just exactly what I said. And then look at what happens to those kids. Very rarely do you find somebody that comes out of that situation. Anyways, that's exactly what happens with these government decisions. You won't see the ramifications of that for like freaking 10, 15 years in the future. But then when it comes back to roost, all of a sudden it's a here and now problem. Anyways, I can go on forever for that subject, but that's just crazy.
I work out in Comchi a lot, which is middle of nowhere. And in 2008, behind their fire department, kind of in that area, a fire started, and it burned, I forget how many acres, it burned this wonderful redwood grove called Montgomery Woods. And since then, it's really jumped back. Out here, everything grows back. Fire is supposed to happen to a certain extent. And if you suppress that, then the fires get bigger when they burn. And then also there's practice here killing and poisoning trees and leaving them to stand. And there's lots of forest grows out here that are active, active forestry and logging operations, and it's pretty interesting to be living here and seeing it around, because you can drive and you can see trees as far as you can see, and a lot of them are dead to a point where I believe they're voting on it in the county not that long ago, probably last year or whatever, and they were flying representatives like supervisors, and I think they even flew out our area representative in a tour over the trees to get his support. And there's just miles of dead trees out here. And that would be a super fire. It's pretty amazing out here. For a lot of people that don't understand how rural everything can be out here in Northern California, you can drive on top of mountain ridges and then descend, and then there's a town. And it's just mountains and trees all around for miles. And then there's a town, And then you drive along, and PG&E, a lot of their wires are just grown into the trees. And some cities and towns are responsible for that, and they take care of it. Other places now, their PG&E is looking to trim back around the power lines to a certain newly determined degree. I don't know the space, but I can get it. I have some family that works with subcontractors that are doing the trimming, and so in this area where I'm at, they've been flying around in low-flying airplanes, and they've been mapping out where to start trimming, and where around the power lines, and where they're prioritizing it. And if you have an old-growth redwood tree in front of your yard and it's in a certain amount of space to the power line, that's probably getting tagged to be cut. And I'm not saying that's bad or it's good or whatever, but that's just how it is. And a lot of people are going to have a lot of their trees cut down. It's going to be interesting to see what people's reactions to that will be, because if you don't do something, you're going to burn the whole friggin' state down. And a lot of people are into that, to prevent that, They're like, yeah, do whatever you got to do. But when it starts going to their houses and they start losing their trees, I wonder what they're going to do. Because there's already people here in a town that was cut off from internet and phone lines for a week last year. And they're already freaking out, saying, you're not cutting my damn trees down.
So what happens if part of the Agenda 21 and Agenda 2020 plans and 2030 and whatnot you want to talk about is talking about getting rid of open spaces, right? And making federal lands and state protected resources all off limits to human activity, right? Where the whole purpose of these agenda plans is to get humans compartmentalized into big cities with stack 'em and pack 'em housing. What if, in fact, that has a big feature of this? The reason that we keep vetoing bills to clean up our forests, the reason that money is siphoned away from efforts like that, or the reason that, Obama had his rural council, etc. Okay, all of these things add up to a big thing, which is all of the people that are in the big cities, Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York. If you look at the map that I posted on Twitter, which was like, what was that, off of ABC or something like that? That was the best map that I saw. ABC had the best coverage. And if you look at the blue that so-called had a majority vote of Congress critters, of the House of Representatives, it's all, well, not all of it, but I mean most of it is around the crinkly edges of the country, and it's targeted at large cities, okay? And that's what America is. You have to look at this from the perspective of, quote, the majority, if you want to call them that. I mean, they are a majority of actual people, right? And if you look at the majority of these people, and they're housed in all of these big cities, and all the big cities have all these tight spaces that are taken up by those people, and they're all voting Democrat, okay? And so when they vote to their perspective. People don't even, this is exactly to Brendan's point about, people don't even understand what forests are about. They go look at a forest on a movie, or if they ever go to a forest, it's to a very specific trip or something like that, and they just simply don't understand that there's actual communities that live in remote parts of the country, and the world for that matter, but let's just talk about our country. We're not overpopulated, right? We're not crowded. We don't have a problem with people living in our state. You have all these big cities, and they say, oh my God, every day I go outside and there's a crowd of people. This city is so overpopulated. We have to make regulations that prevent overcrowding. And we have to get rid of cars because there's so much smog in Los Angeles. Or San Francisco is so dirty and people are pooping on all the streets. So we have to make laws so all of California has to conform to that, right? So that's what happens. You have to look at it from the perspective of these people who they're literally ignorant of various aspects of civil life. And if you look at it from that perspective, I think it all comes together, and you're like, well, how do we prevent that? Well, the only way to prevent that is to beat them at their own game. We have to get more conservative votes out there. And I'm not talking Republican. I think there's a big push right now to see if we can somehow go back and re-co-opt the Republican Party and call it the American Party, the Populist Party, or something like that. Because while we're here with Trump, I mean, maybe I want to hear what you guys have to think about this too. Because if we were to get the Libertarian vote, if we were to get a lot of the conservatives that won't vote Republican, and we get a lot of the independent vote that won't vote Republican, if we can convert the Republican Party to more of an independent party, like the way the Libertarian Party is, we'd actually be able to win elections. And the Republicans have had their heads up their butts for so long that they don't see this. So we need to get national leadership in there and local California leadership and stuff to turn the party on its end and turn the party back to what it's supposed to be, which is a party for the people and a party for liberty and a party for, constitutional law and, if you have, companies destroying our state, then we got to get rid of those companies and stuff like that. But it's only going to happen if we can consolidate our vote. That's the only way it's going to happen. Because what's the only other solution? The only other solution is freaking mob rule. And then we have people that we hire into Congress, like this Cienema character and this Ocasio-Cortez character that are in Congress now, who are communists. And that's the only solution that's going to happen. We either take back the vote, or we're going to literally get communism, because it'll just continue to happen. So I don't know, man. It just goes on and on.
Certainly.
It's been a long time coming.
Anything else on this topic before we move off of the California fires? And you guys have made some really good points, and I just want to kind of leave it at those really good points. Unless you guys got anything else to add on that. My only view is, like I said, with Trump's post, I didn't have any problem with it. I didn't think it was ill-timed, but again, that's just me.
What should we move on to?
How about to the flat Earth theory? Because I know Sean was talking about how the Earth rotates, and that brought up my mind to two things. First of all, Space Force. Because it all brought it back up to me. It's like Space Force. Have you guys looked into this Space Force thing? Because this thing sounds pretty cool. I think I might sign up.
Yeah, Space Force is cool. And but all you have to do is look no further than Elon Musk to debunk the whole flat Earth theory. Because if you just remove NASA from the picture, which, look, I don't trust NASA with everything because they are funded by lots of different interests that don't really have the people in mind. But NASA does have some cool things. But the bottom line is let's say you just remove NASA from the picture when we're talking about flat Earth. You just have to look at Elon Musk. He actually created a spaceship, and I'm hoping the flat earthers, they'll probably say something like, oh, well, Elon Musk is in on it. And it's like, there's only so far you can go with that, right? And there's clearly evidence of this. And I think that my position, well, I know my position on flat Earth, is that I would never debate this. So I don't know what you want to talk about with flat Earth, but the thing with flat Earth is that it's a distraction movement. The Flat Earth Society is a distraction movement specifically designed to grab people's attention for debates and to actually debate people. Now, if the position of the leaders of the Flat Earth movement are to simply create a distraction to have people debate things that have absolutely no possibility of being true because of so much other evidence, and then what they're doing is, I mean, they're doing a good job of it, right? And so that's, hey, congrats to them for doing that, but you can't debate them because they have no interest in listening to you, okay? And these are people that simply don't take planes anywhere, right? I mean, obviously, if you take a plane somewhere, if you take a plane to New York, if you take a plane, like I've been on a plane to Australia, Fiji, Denmark, and New Zealand, okay, you can easily look out the window and see the Earth, okay? And from an airplane, you can actually see it curving and everything. So it's not possible, and that's a personal experience, okay? And there's no illusion. There's no mass hypnotic illusion, like they say, like all the airlines are in on it. There's no mass hypnotic illusion that's talking to me. It's not in my brain. I haven't been digitally reprogrammed to look at a globe of the Earth, okay? So that's why I say that I'll be honest that I've actually looked at some of their evidence and I've looked at some of their websites, and I'll tell you that it's the largest rabbit hole you'll ever get into. I mean, it literally is equivalent to nuclear weapons and high-energy laser beams at the Trade Center towers for 9/11. Yeah. It's literally the same thing. If you try to debate some of those people, they will go on forever, and they will never, ever give in. They'll never, ever say hey, that's interesting, I didn't know that fact before. They just simply don't look at facts that are just staring them in the face. And I don't understand those people, but they're just wrong, right? I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know of a good example of that. Maybe the reason the ocean is blue, right? Well, why is the ocean blue, right? Is because it's reflecting the atmosphere. The atmosphere is blue because it's reflecting the ocean. Whatever, you know, it doesn't matter which way you say it. There's a truth there somewhere, right? But if you limit it to two things, let's say you limit it to two things. You go, the Earth is flat, so show me the other side of that. Or if I say the Earth isn't flat, the Earth is round, then you have to show the other side of that, which I can, obviously, for the Earth is round. And then, like with the oceans, it's really easy, right? You can say, well, the oceans are blue, there's a relationship with the sky. It's that simple. And, yeah, it's crazy. I don't know why you got me into that, Greg. That's just hilarious. But what I always tell people, and this was a fact. This is interesting because this was a fact that I looked up only because there was some flat Earth discussion going on, and I got involved with it. And I'm like, some other person posted that there's a laser transponder on the moon.
Right.
And this goes into the theory that we never landed on the moon, right? But there's actually a laser transponder that was put on the moon.
Yeah.
Where if you know how to utilize it, you can, and they do this, the various astronomy stations throughout the planet will hit the transponder on the moon in order to properly gauge how the Earth is spinning, is everything okay? You know, when the Earth moves from San Francisco to Tokyo, and the moon is in the rotational orbit and everything, how does that respond with the laser, what's it called, a laser transponder? So you have a laser from Earth and you point it at the moon and it will bounce back at you and then it gives you the reading, right? So I never knew that. That's up on NASA's website. Now, again, I mean, if I use NASA to prove something, it's probably, you know, I don't know, it's kind of like proving something out of the Bible to an atheist or something, but I mean, there's actually evidence. You can actually go to an astronomy, you know, one of the big astronomy departments at these universities, and you can actually have them show you the laser and everything. So that's just a debunking point right there. But, you know, since none of those people have ever gone to one of these colleges before, then of course they'll go, oh, well, that's just something you read on the internet, you know, and I don't know, man. Yeah,
well, they legalized use of propaganda in America a couple years ago, right? I mean, they can just make hyperbolic echo chambers on any subject they want and use tax money for it and just steer the whole society. It's crazy.
Okay, I got a topic for you guys. Trying to actually get off of this flat Earth thing because this is so hilarious.
Wait, hold on. Let me
you want to still stay on flat Earth? Well, speak up, Greg. What do you want to know about?
I just want to finish this because I just want to say when I first heard about the whole flat Earth thing, all I did was I looked up to the moon, to the sun, to every other planet, every other moon. Everything else is round. There's no reason for me to think that this one isn't. But I do believe that Space Force can help prove once and for all that the Earth is round. We've been to the moon, all of this stuff. So I am encouraging everybody to research Space Force, look into it. It's one of the craziest things that I've ever seen, and it almost seems like it is a war against NASA. Let's go ahead.
I would. I don't even know how large this whole flat Earth thing is. I would be in agreement with if this flat Earth society thing was so large that it was actually changing people's minds. And I don't know how big it is, right? I guess there would have to be some research done on it, or I don't know how that would work out, but kind of like how the Southern Poverty Law Center goes out and does all this research on all these different groups and everything. You know, we need a similar type of study done on flat Earth. And then what you do is you round all these people up and send them up into the sky on the next X rocket, right? And then tell them, you know, when they come back down again, after you videotape them and everything, you say, well, what do you think now? You know, they'll probably say it's all a hoax or something like that. But anyways, topic that I would propose, let me know what do you think, is the concept of Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google deplatforming hundreds and thousands of sites and people and groups and pages and accounts for breaking terms of service. And my discussion topic would be public or private companies, because they're publicly funded, meaning they're in the stock market, they are a public company. I don't consider them a private company anymore. People always say they're a private company, and I'm like, well, private by what means, right? Because you still have to... Anyways, there's a topic there. And then this concept of you have to hold them to the same responsibility as... They're either going to be a broadcaster, like a news agency, or they're going to be a public forum. And there's a lot of evidence that they're a public forum because their own CEOs have come out and said they're a public forum. But you can't have it both ways, right? You can't be a public forum and be a news agency at the same time where you're protected by your actions. And then the third topic is this concept of meddling with elections. And it's like, you know, Joe Blow, not even Joe Blow, let's take some really super large, multi-million view YouTube page. And there's been several of them that have been delisted or blacklisted or whatever, deplatformed. And then Facebook themselves, or these entities that are deplatforming, they themselves are actually causing election meddling right before the election by that has a dissenting voice. I mean, there's been some people on the left, some Democrat sites, some people that were libertarian, stuff that aren't specifically conservative, but all of the people involved all had one thing in common, which was they didn't tout the party line. And so how is that itself not election meddling? And I don't see how they can get away with it. But they did, right? They deplatformed thousands of accounts literally a month before the election. And nothing's happening to them. And I think that's the biggest travesty of this entire thing. And I'm blown away because I don't hear about lawsuits or anything. So
No, I don't hear about anything on that. Did you guys vote?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Voted against a lot of incumbents. Yeah.
I voted against incumbents. That's my big thing, right? I always vote against incumbents. I vote for new people, whether they're Democrat or Republican, unless I know who they are. Unless I know who they are, I'll vote specifically based on what I know about them.
Yeah.
For local positions and judges, I always vote against the incumbents. School board, same thing. My vote for senator was left blank. I did not vote for either of those two idiots. I'm not going to be a part of that vote. I know that much. Yeah, but...
You guys vote for Gavin? Gavin Newsom for your governor or what?
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
I'm just kidding.
No, I actually don't know much about Cox, but I wanted to put my vote in for Cox. I've heard some good and bad things about him, but this particular vote was definitely just to see how many red votes we can get for this particular election, and it was up there, but not enough.
Yeah, I mean,
we had too many people abstaining from the vote, too many libertarians, too many independents that just simply didn't want to vote red, right? And I don't disagree with that. I mean, I don't find a fault with that. That, you know, not only do they have the right to do that, but obviously I can see they're like, Cox is this horrible vote because of all these things he's done, or maybe the things he hasn't done, but like you look at Newsom and then you're like, oh my God, Newsom is like this. Newsom is this horrendously bad person. Not just that, but he's like a horrible legislator. He's like the worst. He hasn't even done anything for the Democrats, for God's sakes.
He's like Obama.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's just crazy. It's funny because, I don't know, you bring up Obama, everyone was always saying like, well, Obama never did it, or he broke his promises on everything that he said. It's like, if you go back and you look at all the things that Obama said he was going to do, he actually did do that. He actually he said he was going to change the face of the country. He said that he was going to bring in the health care and all this other stuff, right? He actually did follow through what he said. He just lied about how he got there. And when they say things like, oh, you're going to be able to keep your doctor, or you know, lies like that, right? So the funny thing is with Obama, he always lied in the details, but he had every intention on doing what he said he was going to do, which I always find interesting. It's always a sidebar I have, because everyone might say, you know, but I mean, if you're a communist like he is, you know, you're a communist, you're gonna follow through with what you want to do with your communist values. But yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I had some big talks with some local rappers, local people, and I remember back when 2007, it was all about Obama. Everybody thought that he was going to be this great thing, and by 2010, 2012, it was just like, no, like it was just silence. Like they had realized that they had been scammed, they had been duped, and it was a totally different thing. And I think a lot of that had to do with why at least some people that I know who voted for Barack Obama did not vote for Hillary Clinton in 2016.
California has, did you guys use Dominion voting machines? I think that's done at a county level, right? So I'm not sure every county has the same machines. Contra Costa County went with Dominion voting machines last year, and they're using them again this year, where you fill your bubble in, and then you slide it through the machine, and then it digitally counts your vote, right?
Yes.
Those machines are capable of giving you an instant transactional record, so you can actually get your, I guess you can get a record of your ballot. Now,
you get a QR code.
Yeah, they do not give those out in Contra Costa County, and I always thought that was just the dumbest thing. It's like, why wouldn't we use all the features of the voting machines so that, exactly like you said, right? You get a QR code that you could validate against the web, right? And what I'm wondering is, how are we still using voting machines that have so many capabilities of being wrong? This voter fraud can happen at various places in the system, but this concept of losing ballots is just completely foreign. There should be no possibility of losing ballots anymore because of the way because of the way that the machines are built nowadays.
Yeah, and then to find ballots 48 hours later, 24 hours later, that they're still counting, and those ballots end up changing the way that everybody thought that everything was going to go. I mean, first of all, I think a lot of these elections are called very early, and sometimes that really concerns me because it's like, you know what, they haven't even gotten through 50% of the vote, and they're already calling it, and they're usually right. So, and I know it's all math, which goes way beyond my head, but it just seems like, you know, I want them to count the ballots twice. I think there's no reason why we shouldn't count them, and really because we know there's so much voter fraud, there's no reason not to just automatically count it twice.
Well, right. Well, that's why if every individual had their ballot, put it into the machine, and got a receipt out of it, then throughout the day and at the end of the daily tally, there would be absolutely no possibility of ballots being misplaced because your ballots go from the person's hand directly into the machine. So then the way you, and I was actually a part of this back with the Ron Paul campaign, but the way you do it, even back then, there was the same type of machine where it would digitally count your ballots. And so what you do is you take the number of ballots that machine is supposed to have in its, you know, because it goes into a lockbox as soon as you put it into the machine, right? So when you take a receipt, the receipt is supposed to match the ballots that are in the box, okay? And then the box gets boxed up and you tape it. And those boxes themselves are tagged and tracked with a QR code. But the thing is let's say you lost that box of ballots, okay? You lost the box of ballots. Let's say box 25 out of 1,000 boxes or whatever went missing. Well, it wouldn't matter because your ballots would already be counted in the electronic system and they'd already be uploaded to the main computer. So box 25 wouldn't matter at all. You would probably still want to find it, but it wouldn't count against this whole system. And that's why manually counting ballots the way we did it before. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. It's some people say there's more fraud with electronic systems, but I think it's just a different type.
I grew up.
Just relevant. Go ahead.
Right. I grew up outside Boston, and they had a saying around election time. It was vote early, vote often.
Oh, yeah, and that's the thing, right, is that this whole vote early thing, vote early, vote often, yeah. But the vote early portion of that, what I wonder is that so many districts, especially the Democrats, they always encourage voting early. Why do they encourage voting early? Is because ballots that are sent in before the election are subject to manual input. Okay?
Yes.
All right. So when I started understanding about absentee ballots, it became clear to me that where you can steal an election is at the absentee ballot, not necessarily the physical ballot. Okay? There's still opportunity for that, but there's more people involved with the physical ballot. So when you have absentee ballots, there has to be a better system for how we collect them. In my opinion, there's a lot of people that really like absentee ballots, and I think it's horrible. I think that system is the worst that we've ever done. They just want more people to get involved, but I think that if you're too lazy to get off your butt and go to a voting machine, then you shouldn't be voting anyways. Okay, I don't care for your vote. You know, because you're just a lazy human at that point. And I want informed voters. I want the people to go to the polls to be informed voters. And I say that in order to do absentee ballot, you have to have a reason. What's your reason for absentee ballot? So we, as a whole, we discourage absentee ballots. We say, if you're in the military, if you're disabled, if there's a reason, if you can't be there, if you're traveling, then use your absentee ballot system. But otherwise, please don't do that. Please show up at the polls and vote like you're supposed to. That's my take.
Or fill out an absentee ballot and drop it off in person.
Yeah, like if there's a lockbox for that. I don't know any difference in that, right? I mean, if you're dropping it off in person, what's the difference between the post office doing it and me, right? Because it still gets into a bucket somewhere that can be, shuffled through, and then.
Well, can you? Here in my town, they have all paper ballots, and they all go into the same bucket. So I figure.
So can they drop those ballots off at the ballot? At where I cast my ballot, because my wife, she sends in hers, but we basically fill hers out. I go on that date and I cast my vote, but there is a slot where I can put in her vote there. Is that the best way? I mean, I don't trust the mail. So
that's what I do. I've dropped off like my girlfriend's voting for her. She has to sign there's a box that says, I verify this to be dropped off by whoever.
Exactly.
That's a good system.
Thing. Yeah.
I've seen that before.
Over for you. Yeah.
Hey guys, I just got home. I need to take a little break, and I'll be back unless you guys are going to end it. But I'll break
for a
back
while
in.
longer.
Yeah, I'll break back in when I can. Okay.
Cool. Sounds good, man. Yeah. So I had when I went to go cast my ballot, there was a lot of stuff that I did not vote on. So I didn't vote for that many people. I didn't vote for any of the props or anything. So my ballot was two pages, front and back. I filled out the front of the first page and some of the back page. I did not fill out any of the other page. So both sides of page 2 I did not fill out. That triggered, when I put that in to the little voting robot thing, that triggered it, and it was a whole big thing. It actually flagged it because it flagged it as saying that there was no vote on that. Yeah.
No
and
kidding.
I was like,
wow, that's bad.
Yeah, because for two reasons. First of all, I don't really care if people know that I didn't vote for any of the props or anything like that, but it seems like that. So I don't know, because I keep going back and forth, thinking, well, that's good that the program flagged it, right? That it kicked it out. It didn't take it, which forced me to maybe go back and check it, blah blah blah, to make sure that I filled it out correctly or something.
Yeah.
But I was also like, it's kind of embarrassing if somebody didn't want people to know how they voted. That'd be pretty embarrassing. Maybe next time I would just vote for something. I'd vote yes or vote no.
Did you have to verify that you were done voting, that you didn't want to vote these things?
Yes, I did. There was a nice lady that came over, because the person who was helping me, you could tell maybe it was his first time doing this. And so this nice lady came over and she explained to him the whole process. But I could tell she was really explaining it to me to make sure that, there wasn't going to be any problems or anything. But I was like, I don't care. I don't care what people know. But I just thought that, and then I was thinking about, maybe I should send them a email or let them know, hey, maybe there's something wrong here. But I still go back and forth on, I'm glad that it flagged it, because if I would have voted for something, I'd be glad that it, caught that. But I'm just curious about how the whole system works. So, and the whole digital thing, I've never been a fan of. I'll never be a fan of it. So.
Yep. I agree.
And they've tricked us, because now they have us fill out a paper ballot that still goes in to a it still goes into a digital server. So it's almost like, well, I might as well just be typing it in.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways, anything else you got on the the voting or anything before we move on here?
Oh, no, I'm glad it's over. Let's see what happens now. You know?
Yeah.
What's the next crisis?
It's coming. It's coming. Something's coming.
Yeah. What else are they going to set on fire? I don't know. Well, it's, I don't know. Yeah.
No, we just sit and wait for something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, how about France and Germany both calling for a European army? Did you hear about that?
No, I haven't heard about that. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Each of them, Merkel and Marconi, both days apart, said that Europe needs to bind together and form a European army so that they don't have to depend on the U.S. any longer for military interventions and support and so on.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. When did they announce this?
This was this week.
Wow.
This week and last week, I believe. Yeah. Not very mentioned. It's pretty important.
Yeah, this is the first time I've heard of it. I'm gonna have to research this. Is there any good sites or any good places where people can research this right now?
I think it's like mainstream, like New York Times type of articles right now. It's pretty big to come out. I wish I had more on that.
Are your local papers talking about
I haven't seen it. No, I don't see anything like that ever. My local papers are like...
I know. Mine are very, very small, too. But yours, I think, are a little better than the ones I have over here. We don't need to say exactly where they are, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been putting out some great videos. I saw the last two videos that you've put out, and man, you've been putting out some great stuff on the Bohemian Club. Just some great documents, just facts. Not trying to say, hey, this or that. You're just. I love the way that you just put those things out there so that real researchers can just use it for their research and not have to get Alex Jones, pretty much.
Thank you. That's what it's all about.
Right.
I decided it was time to learn how to do Power Director, so I bought it, and I put out a couple videos so far. There's a lot of material that I've collected over the years, and I'm just gonna start pumping them out. I'm thinking January, I can start a few things more in earnest, But I have a lot of ideas. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate your affinity towards them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally love them. How did you do that owl? With the blinking eyes and all that. I mean, just that right there just caught me. It was just like, ooh, yeah, I have to watch this for some reason.
I was going for like retro feel, good retro vibe, colors, just something off a little bit, just in the feel of it all. Just that's kind of how I feel about it. It's like, so I don't know, but whatever. But there's like a lot on YouTube, a lot of green screen footage that you can get of various whatevers, and I found me an animated owl, and I just found me I forgot me a picture of the seal of the Bohemian Club, and I put them right there in the middle. Looked great. I got a few other things coming. I think branding is important. People psychologically latch on to things that they can brand subconsciously. And I think if we go with resist the growth, it's a lot like, the owl buster symbol, sacred owls. That's genius. Not saying what I did was genius in any way, but I think any type of branding will promote what we're trying to say in a bit different than, say, Alex Jones.
You have an interesting story about something that happened to you with the bumper sticker. Can you tell that here? Or you want to save that?
Well,
I found it interesting. I found it fascinating.
Yeah, I was driving through town, and and there's this guy, and he's just following me really closely. I put on an Owl Buster sticker. It said Sacred Owls on my bumper of my car. And it's a newer car. I'm pretty happy I got it from any job, and so I put it out there. I like that symbol. It's a good symbol. So a couple days after I put it on, though, I'm driving through town, and somebody's following me in this truck. It's not exactly an old truck or a beat-up truck. It's just a lot of dirt on these roads out here. And anyway, it was following me so close I couldn't really see its headlights. And I could see it was a person. They were pretty animated behind the wheel, kind of older gentleman, maybe in his 60s, with a white mustache. And so I drove across town, and he stayed on my bumper. I drove to the lake, and I drove up past where I was meant to park, because I wanted to see if he was indeed following me. And he was. We'd go over speed bumps. We'd go up and around this big dam, and we'd go down into this big parking area. And and he keeps following me, so I'm like, all right. So I go up and I park, and he pulls up next to me, and he gets out, and he starts yelling at me. Like he comes out to my driver's side window. I'm sitting there in the car, and I roll my window down a little bit. So this guy's pretty irate, and he starts yelling in the window at me. What do you mean, no sacred owls? What do you mean by that, huh? And I was like, I just said, it's a great band, like that. And he goes, oh yeah, and he walked off saying that, oh yeah, just talking to himself, but for my benefit, And I sat in the car.
I think you triggered him. It sounds like you triggered him.
I did. I surely triggered him, and he then walked down to like the water, and then he looked around, then he got back into his car, and he was watching me, and he saw I wasn't going to get out, and he left. But this guy, interesting thing, because Mendocino County, back a couple decades, there was that whole spotted owl controversy about the lumber companies were chopping down forest, and the spotted owl's an endangered owl, and he lives in the area. They're beautiful, by the way. I see them all the time. And I don't know if it was like some guy being like, he's just hung up on owls. Maybe he really likes owls. Maybe he was involved in that because he would have been right age. There's a big fight pushed against the lumber companies. I don't know. Maybe he worked for the Grove. Maybe he was a family member of somebody that worked at the Grove. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he was. Maybe he's a member. Who knows? You can't tell. That's the beautiful thing about the Bohemian Club. Their secrecy. They strive for that. You don't know. We know. We have a good sense who works there.
Of course, Tony. We're not sure if Tony works there anymore because we didn't see him this year.
I haven't seen Tony.
You could do a whole video just on Tony, just on the video footage that we have of Tony. And if you need some of that raw stuff, I'll make sure I send it over to you. But you could really make a really good video, and we could have a video out, that just is like asking where is Tony?
Where's Tony? Put out some bumper stickers. Where's Tony?
Where's Tony? Sacred. We'll have a Sacred Owl Buster, and then we'll have an Owl Buster, and then where is Tony? Have you seen Tony? You know what? Maybe we could have a whole campaign where we just pass out flyers in Monterey asking if anybody has seen this man. Have you seen this guy? I'm trying
Tony
to get in touch with him. I told Tony that I was going to get him a ticket to a wrestling show. I have that ticket. I need to find Tony so I can get it to him.
Well, it's been 3 years, right? 2 years?
Yeah,
2 years?
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
So,
I tried to give him the whole reference of the quote from my sign that they really liked.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah, I handed it off to some dude that just looked at me like I was a maniac. God, all right, enjoy that.
Hey, what are you guys talking about?
Was that quote from a book? Are you back?
Yeah. How do you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you good.
Good. No echo.
No echo. What happened?
I'm on a computer right now, so I don't know what's going on with the app or anything, but
sounds like a conspiracy to me.
Yeah, I'm on my podcast mic, so.
Cool. So now we can all talk over each other. This is going to be great. Love it.
We're talking about the Grove and how Tony's been missing.
Oh yeah, you guys had some updates from that this last year, right? So.
It was a crazy year.
They never said what happened to him?
No, we haven't gotten any clues. We're actually thinking about putting out a missing person, or just at least going into Monterey, passing out flyers and seeing if anybody has seen this man. We can't find him. I'll go. Did you ever look up on BC Jobs and see if they were looking for a security person or not? No, but we should. Please do that. Please do that.
He's got a pretty good reputation with the neighbors there.
That's pretty funny.
Do you remember what that lady was saying, Greg? How she kept calling him Spook Tony? Spook Tony's such an asshole. No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
I don't think the locals like them, right?
Well, that says something about him, you know.
Yeah.
I want to do. I get a lot of Tony material.
Yeah, you have to make a video just on Tony.
I want to do something.
Have some good video too on that.
I bet. Sean, do you have the contact information for the young couple that came as protesters a couple years back? And she had the sign with the Nixon quote saying it was, it was a gay place or whatever, and the guy tried to tear it up. Do you remember?
Yeah, because I take all those addresses and I put them on the mailing list. If you wanted, I could mail something out on the mailing list.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Because I would love if those people are still together, or if they ever hear this or whatever. I would love to talk to you guys because I got some questions for you about those days, that day. But yeah, that's awesome.
I might have something.
So we have
footage.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was texting with them, but I don't think I still have.
If you guys have the video footage of that day, and if you look through and if you find a YouTube like a timing for that, what you could do is shoot me a link to the time when they're on film, and I could use that to find them.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think they wanted to be on film that much.
I have a photo of her with a sign.
You do?
But I don't think I have one of him.
Show me what you have, yeah.
That day that they were there, you guys were kind of talking in a group, and she was kind of over there with you guys, and he and I were several yards from you, and we were like right on the street, and a medical van drove by, and there was this old dude with a helper, like standing next to him. He was in a wheelchair, and he's hunched over, and he glared at us. I didn't say it. This guy said, he goes, oh, shit, that's David Rockefeller. I'm not going to say that until I talk to him, but that's what I got as an impression, too. I don't go around telling people I've seen David Rockefeller because what's the point? What's the point of saying, you know? But it was just something that happened really quick. I was like, oh. But if we could find this guy and we could ask him what his impression was, I'd just be like, see anybody?
Well,
curious
that is interesting,
what he thinks about that.
Because Rockefeller's more of an East Coast guy, right? And
which year was that, by the way?
Not sure.
That was
like if he
14? 14 maybe? 15? I don't know. I have to look. But, I mean, it could be a million old dudes in there anyways, all looking pretty rough when they're leaving the gates from time to time, no doubt, But just pointing that out, it'd be interesting to get them.
Yeah, and that's not the first person that has said that. I know my friend Walter, back in 2012, he said that same thing, that he felt like David Rockefeller was glaring at him. I'd be curious about that.
It was and like lower eyelids are like drooping and red and gross, and I've seen pictures that kind of made me think, well, that's kind of why I recognize that. So, but just throwing it out there for whatever it's worth. I'd like to do a video on Google Guy. If we have his name, that would be awesome.
That Google Guy was a trip.
Oh my God! Right?
And I bet I have footage that you guys don't have too. So
good.
I would like the footage. I'm sure it's around. I don't think I have it, but it was when he pulls up in his Mercedes or whatever, that convertible, and we were like, "Are you here for the Grove?" And he's all, "No, I'm here for you." Remember that?
I have footage of his car while it was parked. I have a lot of that footage, so let me get on that. But yeah, because there was the one girl that was saying that they picked her up in the woods, and
I got good stories with her.
Story. That was weird. The whole thing was, and then Billy Bob ties into all that too. That whole thing was just like a stage, just like, I don't know what they were thinking, who they thought we were, but
they grilled us really good with those Google glasses, man.
Yeah, I kind of
they made it a point.
They might have been closer.
You make sure to put links to the YouTube videos when we're talking about this stuff, right?
Yes, the ones that we have, yes. The ones that are public, I guess I should say, yeah.
I want to do a video on the Italian diplomat that told us he was in a discussion about Putin.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one. Can you guys narrow the year? Because in my brain, it's... I know what shirt I was wearing. All the years went by really quickly for me, I was going to school.
Yeah, I can look up that Billy Bob video and probably find it, but I think it was 2015, because it was the last year that our friend Manny came with us.
Yeah.
And I think that was 2015.
Was that the same year as the Malaysian airline that was blown out of the sky by Ukraine? Because I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why that sticks in my head, but it does.
2013. That was 2013.
Was that 2013?
Wow. That was 2013.
5 years ago?
And I see your video, just a 53-second video. It's one of the first things that popped up. Bohemian Grove 2013 attendee calls himself Billy Bob from Texas.
Oh, that's a good one. Billy Bob with his hook shots and Ouija boards,
And something up the butt, if I remember correctly, that really made me. I was so creeped out by that. He said it was just some weird chutes and ladders or something, like, I don't know. But then he did invite us all to his house.
He did.
Remember that? So we have that. we gotta find Billy Bob now too. But I haven't seen him since. Never seen him again. So I don't think he was. I don't know if he was real or not. But that's what happens. They always send out people to just come and fish. Right? They're just fishing for something.
Where are your Antifa friends?
That was an interesting one, because last year, that's why 2017 was so tense. And at the time, I didn't realize why there was so much tension. It was because they thought we were Antifa. They thought we were going with them and all that stuff. Now, I know we've been going through this a couple years now with the whole Mary Moore group, which I don't even go there that much. You know, I've never really I've always steered clear from there. Sometimes you just know that there's just nothing there. You know, it isn't like they're not doing anything good or anything, but there's nothing for me. There's no way that I can really help them. Anything that I would do to collaborate with them would probably just make things worse, wouldn't make things better, so I just stay as far away from them as possible.
Oh, no. Mary Moore herself has always been a far left construct. She is a gatekeeper, and because of the longevity that she's put in to that area, the Bohemian area, you know, people know her, and you know, they think a lot of those people, and I met a lot of the people involved actually with the BGAN group, and it's unfortunate because they all think that she's like them. They all think that she's just like a liberal, but she's not. She's actually a far left gatekeeper that wants to keep anyone out that might have a sane opinion on what's going on with not only their group, but maybe has different opinions as to religion or different opinions of spiritual aspects of things. She wants to control all that information, which is very unfortunate. And she doesn't have any interest in changing. I've tried. And I've spoken to many people that have actually tried as well, and they end up having to give up because Mary simply not simply, but she won't talk to you on the level. She always thinks of you as crazy, which is hilarious, that she thinks of other people as crazy. But then she'll also say bad things about you behind your back, and the only way that you'll know what she's saying is somebody forwards you something.
Well, if you read it in the newspaper.
Or read it in the newspaper. So I've actually read stuff about me in the newspaper before, and I've also had things forwarded to me by people in the group.
And it's all true. All of it.
And basically, she just is a bitter, entrenched little witch, basically. You ever seen her little hovel that she lives in?
No.
She lives in this little hobbit hole. And
she's a hobbit? Wait. What?
She lives in a little hobbit hole, and she doesn't, you know, it's just hilarious. I mean, people can do whatever they want. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. But she...
Have you ever been contacted recently since the last Press Democrat article about you and how she didn't like us or whatever because of...
Well, I was contacted for a couple of years. I was not contacted this last year, though. And it's possible that I wasn't contacted because my head wasn't in the game for this year, and then I got sick. And normally what I do is I send out some mailing list stuff, and I put people on notice that we're having another event, but I don't think a lot of that came together this year. So the Press Democrat and other places probably didn't get notice that we were going to be there.
And they've called us, like, well, you know, Antifa, and then...
This last year? This year?
No, not in the newspaper. The Grove called us Antifa several times.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And then, yeah, that was big. And then, but in newspapers, it's like, conservative groups will be descending upon blah blah blah. Mary Moore says, you know, don't go. They're all, you know, sick in the head, conspiracy theorists, and and it's always the same line year after year. But they always say we're something that we're not. It's never. They never ask us. They never come talk to us.
Well,
they
right.
haven't tried to interview.
It's kind of like what I've always told the newspapers in previous years was that, you know, we're going to go there. We just want to ask questions about what's going on with the Grove and network with people that understand more about what's happening. And then what Mary does is she takes it up 1,000% and says, well, we're literally not going to be coming this year because we don't have anything to do with them. And not only that, but don't you go and let's get ourselves in as many papers as we can and sue them so that we put them on notice that they're not doing what we want them to do. I mean, it's kind of like, that's why I always thought that...
Did she sue you?
I have this little conspiracy theory about Mary because I think that she was planted there years and years ago when the whole nuclear thing happened. Because, like, what would be the most perfect thing to do would be to place this bitter, entrenched woman that you say, you know, you're going to live in a cabin, this little troll cabin, and we want you to come out every year, and we want you to provide gatekeeping for the nuclear facilities and for all of the right-wing stuff that's going on, you know?
I mean, they had 24-hour protests there in shifts, and just like a little like, you know, stand for all the people to be at 24 hours a day, right up, you know, right where they put those sawhorses up so you can't park. There. I mean, wow. Imagine if somebody did a 24-hour protest these days. You know? And you don't see Occupy camps much these days, you know? They cleared those out.
It's all scripted.
They would
seems scripted.
Yeah, they would dump a lot of money towards the sheriff's department in Sonoma County if there was going to be 24 hours. They just pump money to them, and then we would see a big presence. That's something. Like, in my last video that I made, I showed how Nixon has audio, you know, Nixon tapes. Everybody knows all about those. But he talks about when he couldn't go to the Grove after being asked not to, after being asked to go. And in the video, he talks about whores and prostitutes and, you know, all that, and how that's a long-standing tradition. A lot of the young members, you know, go there and fool around, and they didn't want to bring attention to it. They didn't want to, in 1972 or whatever, have a bunch of press corps go like Helen Thomas or whatever, and have this be known to the public so much. You know, there's this big push for him not to go, and so it's well known in the area that there's prostitutes and hookers and stuff. One year, I saw a male that I think was a prostitute standing there in like some short shorts, some really big reflective sunglasses, and nervous as hell because I'm standing there with a video camera, you know. And then some car pulls up, picks him up, you know. He's like, woohoo! But he was nervous with us there.
He kind of, yeah, he kind of looked like he had finished whatever he was doing, and he was looking for a ride out, right? A ride home.
And well, what's the, you know, how complacent are the, you know, law enforcement agencies of the area to keep prostitutes out of the area? You know, that's a good question. I'd like to interview the sheriff of Sonoma County, sit down and ask him that. You know, hey, how do you feel about all those hookers at the Grove? You know, they get a lot of money every year from the club to keep us out. Yeah. I would like to hit up the accountant for Sonoma County and find out how much they were paid over the last 10 years. That'd be good. I bet it's in the millions. Or maybe over $1 million, right around $1 million. I know one year it was like $144,000. And you talk to the cops and they're just like, you know, change the subject. Some of them are like, no, we're on our own time here. And then you're like, but you're using, you know, cop cars and, you know, whatever. And then they kind of change the subject again. But we got the accounting from a few years ago for that figure of $140,000 or whatever. They're totally in the pocket.
So they are paying. So the county is paying, even though we were told that they weren't.
No, the county is being paid by the club for all of their expenditures going to do that, I believe.
But these aren't on duty cops. These are off duty cops that are doing this, right? Or that's where it gets
what
a little
they
murky.
Told us. Yeah, it's shady as hell, man.
Because
at the end of the day, it's just them guarding a bunch of, you know, people shacking up with who knows who. And
I mean, if they're on duty, parked there, like we see every year, they're parked there for at least 8 to 10 hours there when they could be doing other things. That's one thing. If they're doing that privately, great. But if they're doing that privately with the police cars in their uniforms, that doesn't seem right to me.
From what I understand is they're doing it privately on their time, being paid by the Grove, but using all of the services. Yes.
You can't do that. How can they do that?
Well, that happens. That happens all over the place, right? I mean, you know, when you can pay for police escorts or police protection or a police presence based on what you think the outcome is going to be. So you have to reimburse them for their time. Essentially, since the people pay for that to happen, what's technically happening here is they pay the exorbitant fees to reimburse that tax money coming from the people. So the only thing is we don't know how the accounting works on that, which I think what Brendan's point I think was good, because are they actually reimbursing for all the costs, you know? You know, how is that being accounted for or checked, you know, against the books, right? And also if it's too much. I mean, and then what Greg was saying is on, you know, how many hours are these cars out there? Now, if they did things like rotate officers that are off duty and stuff like that, then, you know, that might make some sense. But at the same time, you know, it's one car versus probably the hundreds that they have in Sonoma County or more.
I wonder how much they spent on 2012 with the helicopters and the dogs and all that.
Right. I don't even know how much was spent back then because I only got the figures from the next year, I think. So.
Yeah.
Hey, do we have any ideas? I would love to get your guys' thoughts. I've gotten a few comments over the years from the same people that are asking, why don't we have a drone? With a drone, if I were to pay for it, what could we legally do, and what would we need to do so that we could maybe get some drone footage?
No, I would assume
it's.
I'm assuming that there's laws against, flying a drone over somebody's private property and just own it.
Here's the answer to that, by the way.
Because of the real estate thing, right? Go ahead.
Here's a partial answer to that, which is the type of drone that you would need that would be robust enough to get into the distances that we're talking about would actually be covered under the license that's required. So if you did a drone and you did it anonymously without a license and you were caught, then you'd be subject to certain fines and stuff like that. That's one of those new laws they put in place in California. And then if you didn't get caught, sure, there'd probably be lots of stuff you could do. It could also get shot down. I mean, they do do it
legally? Legally, how can we? Like, how far can we get? How far can I go? How far can
What does legally mean?
Legally within the law of the state.
It's not. It's not legal.
It's illegal.
It's not legal because you'd be over private property.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So I can't stand in the public place that we stand every year. Yeah. I can't stand there, have a drone that just goes up into the sky.
Yes, you can.
And just films whatever it can.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, we could do that.
As long as it was in public property. If you had a drone that was, if it was big enough to get the type of pictures we're talking about, and the drone just went straight up in the air, not crossing the boundaries of their private property, then yeah, it would fit within the guidelines of that. And then if you had a license for it, then there's certain rules about like how far up in the sky you can put it and stuff like that. Yep. But yeah, you could do that. You just wouldn't be able to take it into the grove.
Yeah, make sure when you have it up high, it's not past the line if you're looking up.
Right,
it's not over where they kick us out.
Those are expensive, Greg. I mean, you're not going to go out and spend $150 on a drone like that. I mean, you can, and you're basically going to get 20 or 30 feet out of it.
Okay, yeah. So I need to spend more, but it is possible.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, did you guys see the footage? I thought we posted it on the page.
I saw that.
So there was cut out, but they cut out a lot of it.
There was some guy that came in.
All the good parts. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Crickets.
What's going on?
No, just they cut out all of the parts where they actually filmed the grove. So I'm trying to figure out why they did that. And
I think he said he didn't want to give away where he was at, and he didn't want to get in trouble.
Well, then why did he do it?
Basically, he just got a nice shot of the river.
Yeah, I mean, it was all like hype, and then it was nothing. Like, well, why even do it? Why even post it then? I mean, but there's no reason why we couldn't legally just put a drone up there. Because if you look, and really, I guess it all depends on the cremation of care if they still do fireworks.
Well, it's crazy that they would even, yeah.
So if we were able to get one of those drones that could track you, we could actually get a drone, have it high up in the air as we were driving in, and what it could do is you would actually tell it where we wouldn't have to actually drive the drone. You would just tell it to track you on the ground, and then what it would do is it would track you through the air at a particular height while you were driving down. And then when you drove down and parked, it would literally just be over the top of you, and then you'd be able to use the camera and zoom and stuff like that. Yeah, those kinds of drones are cool. I mean, I've seen ads for drones that can do that.
I'd be curious to see if on one of the days we're out there on the cremation of care, how late they would permit us to stay and protest or just be a presence. After dark, are they going to kick us out? Because it's like 9:30 or whatever is the cremation of care. I'm sure if we were there,
you would do that by the river. If you did that by the gate, then you'd be dealing with the residents at that point.
No, yeah, you want to do it as close to the cremation of care as possible, which is there are.
Well, if they had a presence in the 80s or whatever with the 24-hour protests, what are the laws now to where you can be out in the streets after a certain hour? And is it in the streets in Monterey you can't loiter after a certain hour?
Well, the connections those groups have, I mean, Mary's group, one thing that you could say about them is they have a lot of connections.
They sure do.
And it is California, so you got a lot of liberal-minded people, and they can basically send out a mailing, and their word-of-mouth network can have 100 people there, the next day or whatever. It's insane how they can organize, but they have gotten themselves to a point where they actually can organize. The question is how effective is the organizing in general for getting just regular people to listen to you?
Well, how long would we have if we as a group of 4 people or something set up some chairs? We told them throughout the day we intend to stay here until 11 o'clock tonight.
Right.
What would their response be? You got to be out.
I don't think the Grove would care. I think what would happen is if we made noise or we disturbed the people at the houses, they could call us to the police, to the sheriff.
Well, if we were totally quiet and we had some good mics, we could probably pick some.
We could.
Some songs up.
Could, absolutely. And what I was thinking, Brian, is that I wish that we could find somebody who would contact us and want to just sign up to be staff in the Grove.
Yeah.
And somebody who could be an inside person. And I wish that if there was anybody listening at any time, and I would love to be able to put some people inside the Grove. And I don't know, basically just to find out what kind of security precautions they have. And I don't think they're not going to have any super duper security precautions either. Airport type stuff, I mean,
no, because
sneaking a camera in or something that was a really well designed hidden camera, because there's some really good ones nowadays.
True.
Could do it, but we'd have to have somebody that would be willing to get in there and take care of that. Somebody young enough.
Yeah. Somebody young and pretty.
I would. In my wildest dream, I guess I would just love that if the Bohemian Club would just let us go in there and just live stream the cremation of care. I mean, they act like there's nothing there. This is the whole problem, is they act like there's nothing there. It's no big deal, but they're so secretive about it. And I think a lot of things have
changed over the years too, but I don't know if we've ever actually. I know we haven't actually made an official request. Why don't we just draft a letter and send it to them?
Don't say that's a private club, but yeah, why not?
But at least we get an answer. I mean, at least we get something on data. So,
if you announce your presence and the Bohemian Grove sends out a thing saying, "Oh, we're going to have some journalists inside the Bohemian Grove," and and stuff like that, then it changes the whole atmosphere of everything. So
yeah, I don't think that they ever will, because they want to promote the most shadiest concept thing there is. I think they really like the whole
well, right. The whole point of the thing is that they're trying to get these executives and Silicon Valley people and the artists and all these other people to basically open up and talk to each other about what's happening for the next year. Yep. And I'm not exactly sure what, if any, part of that at all would be, in their opinion, available to be put up on the screen, you know.
Did you guys see, it was on last year, but that show, House of Cards, when they did the reenactment of being in the Grove?
Yes.
That was so ridiculous. And the guy whips out his phone. He's like, "Now look at this. We're going to be able to download your consciousness directly into this app." You know.
I had people call me. I had people who knew that I was looking into the Grove but had no idea. They called me. They contacted me, asking me about this. Yeah. So to me, that was a win-win. It was like, okay, people are seeing that there's something here. You know, this isn't just fiction. So to me, that was a really good thing, because these are people that I did not expect to contact me, especially about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was able to find recently, you guys probably seen it, I don't know, it's a lakeside chat from the director of the CIA in 1988. So good. William H. Webster was his name.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, and it was disseminated from the CIA itself. And there's redactions in it, guys. It's perfect, because it's like, he tells stories, you know, he's up there, he's talking about, like, oh, he gets letters from people, kids and stuff, they want to be secret agents, and he goes in, he tells a story about some agent's fake mustache falls off from, like, the humidity, like in Cuba or somewhere, I don't know. You know, he starts telling all these stories and jokes and stuff, but then it gets to, and this year, we have made tremendous successes or whatever, right? And then it's a page and a half of redactions.
Oh, that's funny.
And so you look at what happened in 1988. George Bush is elected president, former CIA director, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Boho. Maybe not related, just kind of stretching it possibly, but the Lockerbie bombing over Scotland of the airplane that they blamed on Gaddafi. And look what happened to Gaddafi over the years.
Yeah.
And then here's something that I found out. The Counterintelligence Center was established in 1988.
Oh.
And that seems like something that would be a huge topic at the Grove, and probably was. And that's why the CIA redacted those comments from their director giving out a private club with non-government actors involved, which seems like it should be breaking some laws. So I'm gonna look more into that.
Brendan, do you post that stuff onto the
can you tell us where people can find those
site,
documents?
or do you just post it onto your personal site?
I don't. You know, I just started making some videos. Put it on my personal YouTube.
Sean,
post them anyway.
Sean, you should have him where he can post to the page. You should.
Everybody can post to the page.
Yeah, but not as the page. Brendan should be able to post as.
Oh, I thought he already was. I'm sorry.
You know, it's weird. I can't sign up. It doesn't let me sign up to that page. It comes up as some weird link that says, like, hey, this is an untrusted website here.
Wait, what
yes,
do you mean?
and then at the very bottom.
You mean my mailing list?
But that's
you mean?
separate.
I mean, Resist the Grove on Facebook.
The Facebook page, the Grove Facebook page is called Resist the Grove, and Facebook has a link called there's like a join, not a join, but it's a what's the where you can actually follow the page, I don't know the actual name of that, but there's a button on the top that's called Join the Mailing List, and that's probably the join that you're looking at.
Okay.
And the join is the Join the Mailing List, and I haven't updated the SSL certificate on that, so that's the reason that the Join the Mailing List actually comes up invalid. But that's not anything to do with Facebook, though.
Okay. So how do I then become...
I'll get you some access to that.
Yeah, I just think, Sean, I just think you should, like how you made me an administrator, I think you should make him one too.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't see that before.
That's okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm gonna
I've been seeing you post, though. I'd like to get it up. I'd like to get that linked into the site. That way, we can have some tracking of all this archive.
Yeah,
I'm going to.
I do try to share his posts on that and try to share it to the page, but it would just be better if he could just share it straight to the page.
Sure.
And all my videos, I'm going to label Resist the Grove and try to make it make a stickable label,
Create a playlist too in YouTube that has a playlist for that.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I guys, I stayed away from even putting videos out for years. I liked my anonymity. I didn't want to be in any spotlights. I didn't want my name to be known. Just doing what I have done to feel good about who I am. And we learn a lot, and we've been learning a lot, and we learn more every moment, and that's why I went and got some editing software, and hopefully I can work and put this info out, and it will get more people involved to at least pay attention. I don't understand, with all its shenanigans and history and value inside the country, for all of that it accomplishes for corporations and for government and foreign policy and for media, that it's not a laughable thing for everybody in the country when they think about it. People should roll their eyes and laugh at these people, in my opinion. It's laughable because it's treason, and it goes against everything they ever portray as being the physical reality of our country, and it's infuriating for me, and that's why I do what I do. And I'm glad that we've persisted all these years, because we're only going to get more people to be intelligent about this subject. And that's all I'm looking for. I don't care who's involved, who comes out. If you're peaceful, that's the number one thing. But if, come and debate us. Come and bring your questions. Come with your experiences. Your point of view, your perception is important. Everybody should know about this, like everybody knows about Burning Man, really. In my opinion, it's Burning Man for rich assholes.
Agreed.
So,
agreed.
Thank you for all that you guys do, and I would love to participate more, and I'm ready.
No, that's great. I think the biggest thing that I've always wanted with any of the ventures that I've done in the past, whether it's We Are Change or Bohemian Grove actions or local actions in San Francisco, Federal Reserve, etc., is to provide a platform and provide contacts where if people wanted to get serious about stuff that we could actually do something, right? And
Yeah.
I think with the amount of information that I know that you're gathering on the Grow, that we have a chance on actually putting a compendium together that people haven't seen in its totality before. Because obviously not everybody wants to go around and do a lot of research, right? So if we provide it in one place for them, then it's easier for them to look at it. And I think that's one of the things that I like to do. That's one of the reasons I started my Facebook page. And one of the things that I did early on was I linked my Facebook with my Twitter account so that every public posting that I've done always goes to Twitter. So that gives me a long history of that. And we have to think about how that type of stuff works for us, right? It's like when we make posts, do those posts only show up in Facebook, or can we put them on other platforms? Like I never linked our Bohemian Grove page with Twitter, for instance, and that was probably a bad idea. Might want to correct that, so I have to figure out how to do that. Because I'd like to be able to get a lot of those posts sitting there that people can go back and do research on.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, I don't know, man. There's all the stuff that's going on right now, like you guys were talking about earlier about those, like Florida. I think what people need to do is they need to look at Twitter, and I'm trying to think of what political, not just politics, but like geopolitical news, like Zero Hedge, for instance. So Zero Hedge, ZeroHedge, ZeroHedge.com. That guy, Tyler, puts out a bunch of news articles, and people can like figure out what a lot of the people are talking about out there. I like Tyler's reporting, and there's other news sites that I follow. Like I said, I've been following Scott Adams, and I've been following Zero Hedge. And it gives you a good place to kind of say, what are the big news agencies like the CNN and the MSNBC, what are they saying and what aren't they talking about, right? So one of the important things to figure out what real news is if you look at CNN, they've gone full fake news, full racist, right on their public platform. So CNN is really easy. You get up and you watch CNN, or you look at their website and you kind of find out what they're tracking, and you can immediately know where to go look for your information. So if they start saying this particular senator is a racist, then you immediately go to that senator's website and look into what he's doing. Or if they deplatform some website, you go to that website, as long as they haven't taken it off the internet. Hopefully they've got mailing lists and stuff like that. But yeah, it's an interesting place to always find out where to go look for news, because it's always the stuff that they don't like talking about. And then if they're leaving stuff off, one of the things that Scott Adams talks about is always find out what CNN and MSNBC are leaving off of their websites. And then those always turn out to be a really good source of information, because CNN doesn't want to point people towards topics that they don't want people to discuss, for instance.
Yeah.
So, It's pretty crazy. That's kind of what I do for my news gathering, though. Is I always look for what people are talking about and not talking about. So it's what else?
I mean, I can't really watch CNN or NBC. It's too painful.
Right. Well, I don't know what you guys do to keep track of your news, but Greg, I know one of the things that I'd also like to get linked up on these videos is what tools can people use to keep track of news so it doesn't take all day to look through it. And one of the tools that I found is called Feedly, Feedly, Feedly.com, and it's a mobile app and something for your desktop, and it's also web-based. And you can put in 100 to 1,000 RSS feeds. It doesn't matter how many you have in there. And what it will do is it deduplicates all the news for you. So you just get a single news feed of everything you want to keep track of. And then you can create groups. And like I have a group called News Aggregators. And in News Aggregators, I have like 50 news sources. And if I just want to get my boiled down news sources, I click on News Aggregators, and it just gives me the feed for all of their combined feed. And if 4 of them have the same story, then I only see it one time. If I want to look at the mainstream news, I'll click on the MSM button, and then I'll get just the feed of all the mainstream news. And I think using tools, is important because we have to be smarter in the way we track things. Mm-hmm. Personally, I've always been a tools guy, so I always love tools.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm just looking at that site now, seeing what they have, what they offer. Interesting website. Okay.
I mean, my big tools are Evernote. Evernote is an amazing web-based application. It also has clients for your mobile and for your Mac and Windows, where you can store unlimited amounts of information up on their cloud. The free version has a very limited how much megabytes you can upload per day. But then the lowest paid version gives you more. I personally use a pro version, and really the service is exactly the same, meaning that if you're on the free version or the paid version, there aren't any differences on the service other than how much content you can post per day. Nice. So if you're using it for just tracking links and stuff like that, and just trying to, like, you track a website, and then you can write notes and stuff about it, that'll not consume very much at all, and you can keep a lot of information on there. For me, I have the web clipper that clips off entire stories, including images and stuff like that. But then what I end up with is I end up with an Evernote archive of everything that I see as important that I come across. It's kind of like my brain storage.
That's really clever.
And then, so Evernote is my big tool. I use Google Keep, which is part of the Google suite of tools, where you can write all kinds of notes and everything, and it just kind of pops up into your Google storage. I use Google Drive to store a bunch of PDFs and stuff. Mm-hmm. So if I want to have a quick link to something, of a document or whatnot. And then, because you know that Google Drive, they run tools against it where it's all indexable. So you can actually find stuff within PDFs and stuff. Evernote does the same thing, by the way. And then Feedly. I mean, those are my main tools. And between those tools, you can really keep on top of geopolitics